No matter what industry you're in or where you are within your career or life, the skill of selling is extremely important if you want to succeed, from selling products to services to your ideology. Now there's a way to approach it with more empathy, and we're going to find that out by doing the book review of Go Givers Sell More by Burg and John David Mann coming up. If you're new here, my name is Dedeyan. Welcome to my channel, the #1 place for peak performance, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. The reason why I picked up this book is actually because my sales coach told me to pick it up, and he's like, yo, you just need one book if you want to really get good in sales. So I was really intrigued, and I looked into this book. They actually have a whole series of the Go Givers, which I highly suggest as well. This is the first one that I'm reading from the series. So let's dive into the 5 best ideas that I got out of this book. The first best idea of the book is traditional versus Go Givers selling process. Now this is interesting how they highlight it, and really makes you realize that, oh, wait a minute, there's maybe another way to approach this. So this is a traditional selling process. Prospect, qualify, present, overcome objections, close, follow up, and provide customer service. So this was the traditional way that I think there's nothing surprising about this. This is what any salesperson has learned. Now here's the Go Givers Sell More approach. Create value, touch people's lives, build network, be real, and stay open. So essentially the whole premise of this book is to give massive value to your audience and community, and by giving this massive value, there is going to be massive income that's going to come from that in itself. But you always have to think to give instead of receive. If you're doing a sales call or you're in a sales process and you're just thinking about, oh, how can I sell more or get more money out of this transaction, or this is what I'm going to get after the transaction is closed, you're not approaching it the proper way. Not only if you think about selling in a giving way instead of receiving, you're going to be so much more happier. That's what they mentioned in the book. People that have this ideology and this mindset of giving, they're a lot happier, they're more fulfilled, and they're more successful overall. So this is the whole premise of the book, and we're going to go into more detail of how to approach to be that mindset of a giver instead of receiving. The second best idea of the book is fuzzy market. Now this is my favorite idea of the book because I've never heard of this concept, fuzzy market. Now we probably heard of the concept of cold market or warm market, right? Which cold market essentially is when you're doing an outreach to somebody that doesn't know you and you don't know them. And a warm market is somebody that you're doing an outreach that may know you or you may know them, or it's maybe something that you've already done. So there's a second, third, or fourth, fifth outreach that you're doing to this particular person. Now when it comes to the fuzzy market, it's somewhere in between. So this is somebody that may know you, you may know them, but it's not necessarily somebody that you could call a friend. So maybe it's a friend of a friend or a colleague of a colleague. Now what they mention within the book is that this fuzzy market is where most probably your best clients are going to come from. So be aware of that and cultivate this fuzzy market in itself. Furthermore, they mentioned that every single individual that you speak to has a network of approximately 250 within their network. So every time that you do an outreach or you speak to somebody, don't necessarily approach it on the idea of you want to sell something. No, just approach it of connecting and bringing massive value, because you never know with the person that you're speaking, maybe they're going to connect you to somebody else within their fuzzy market, and that's where your client's going to come from. So be aware of the fuzzy market and utilize it to your advantage. The word of the book is MacGuffin. Now they actually utilize this word a lot. So the definition is an object, event, or characteristic in a film or story that serves to set and keep the plot in motion despite usually lacking intrinsic importance. Now the reason why this MacGuffin word is used a lot within the book is that they're trying to tell you guys, when you're selling or when we're selling, have the ideology of what you're actually selling is the MacGuffin, is your value, is the why. And always remember what is that main thing, which is the MacGuffin. The third best idea of the book is don't pitch. Now, great salespeople don't pitch. What they do instead is they serve. Now, when we're talking analogy of pitching, which is baseball, and serving tennis, you're playing a friendly game of tennis. You're not trying to destroy the person. You're just trying to hit the ball to intrigue the other person to hit the ball back. And in that situation, what you're doing is you're creating a conversation. So when it comes to that, you have to stop thinking about, hey, me driven or my MacGuffin driven. You have to think about the other person and ask questions that interest them. Now, the best way to approach this or to look at it, which they mention in the book, is what do you say when somebody asks you, what do you do in life? Before, I used to answer, I'm a professional speaker, peak performance business and life coach, and a learning disability advocate. That's me driven. That's MacGuffin driven. There's no added value to this person. Now, after reading this book, I switched it, and when people ask me, Chris, what do you do in life? This is what I answer. I help people optimize their performance, not only in their business, but in their personal lives as well. From CEOs to entrepreneurs to Fortune 500. Now that's that's so much more intriguing. It could actually start a conversation. The person is probably gonna hit the ball back and be like, oh wow, that's interesting. How do you do that? And then you start a conversation. Instead of being like, hey, what do you do? I'm a lawyer, I'm an accountant, I'm whatever. That's aggressive. Nobody likes to get pitched. So think about it in a way of serving something that's interesting to the other person. Stop thinking about you, think about the other person. The fourth best idea of the book is don't be needy for the sale. Now, I don't care who you are as a salesperson. Throughout your career, there was for sure one or many times that you were needy for the sale. Maybe it was in the beginning of the career that you absolutely need to start selling to see that you could do it. Maybe it was when you were in a dip and you needed that financial support that was going to come with the sale. But if you approach any sales process or sales conversation with, I absolutely need this sale, people feel it. Even though you're not saying it in those words, they feel it energetically, and that turns them off. So there's 3 things that they mention within the book that you should do to not be needy for a sales process. Number 1 is look at your emotional clarity. So you have to look at yourself and be like, hey, what is the emotion I'm feeling right now? This neediness, is it necessary for this connection and this sales process? Yes, no, maybe so. And if not, you put it away. The second thing is be emotionally disciplined, which kind of makes sense. So you figured out what emotions you are, then you're disciplined to understand what are the emotions that are going to serve me best and serve this person best. And then once you're able to notice that, then you have to be disciplined not to let it come into play and be impulsive throughout the sales process, but be more responsive. So you don't want to react, you want to respond in the sales process. And finally, the third thing, which I think culminates all this together, is ask questions. Stop turning it about you or your McGovern or what you're selling, the service or product, and ask questions. So as you're turning it towards the other person, you're not going to think about your neediness. You're just going to be so in depth in that conversation. Be actually interested. So ask questions and then be interested to their response. As you get in that flow and in that zone, you're not going to think about your financial difficulties, about the needing of the sale. You're just going to be in that present moment with that person that you're trying to serve. The 5th best idea of the book is go-giver equals go-getter. Now, maybe there's a perception that you may have that, hey, if you're somebody that's a go-giver, you're going to get stepped on. People are going to abuse you for your kindness, your empathy, and so on and so forth. It's actually the complete opposite. The more you give, the more you are in a position of empathy, the more you are aware of the people and the better judge of character you become. Furthermore, these types of people that are go-givers are the best go-getters, because a go-getter is essentially somebody that's not going to sit around and wait for things to happen. They're going to go and get it. They're going to make those things happen. And they mention within the book that all the best go-givers are in fact amazing and masters at becoming go-getters as well. So it's directly correlated. So did I like this book? Honestly, after reading this book, it's gonna go into my library in the section of rereads. Essentially, sometimes there's books that come along that I read it and I'm like, yo, I have to reread this consistently and repetitively throughout my life because there was so much great value. Furthermore, it made me see sales in a whole different way. I've been in sales my whole life and I've always had a certain ideology about it, and I had a certain understanding of the things that were mentioned here, but they're always subconscious. Now I'm able to see it in a different way. So highly recommend this book. And like I mentioned, they have the actual whole Go-Giver series, which I haven't read any other Go-Giver book other than this one. I'm actually going to buy all of them and read them. But yeah, if you want to get better at sales, please start by reading this book. The Amazon link will be in the description below, so you guys can go ahead and pick that up. And the question of the day is, how do you go about approaching sales when you do sales? Write that in the comments down below. Would love to see what the community is going to say on that end. Furthermore, there's some more videos over here that could interest you. First one over here is on my book series. Over here you have my entrepreneurship series. Over here you have my peak performance mindset series, and you have my profile picture. You guys can click subscribe and join the family. I hope you have a blessed and grateful day.